and welcome to the Everything You podcast. My name is Nicole and this is Morgan, who is our special guest today. So actually, NX Coaching is 3 years old, which I can't believe. Woo! I can't believe it, but at the same time, I am just really grateful and really happy and proud. And so you're the birthday guest, Morgan, which is awesome. But yeah, so in terms of the questioning, Morgan is an actor. And he also is heavily into fitness, and he's also my boyfriend as well. So he's doing me a special favor. But yeah, so in terms of the number one question, how do you prioritize your fitness?
Well, firstly, happy third birthday. Many businesses fail in the first year, but yours is going strong.
They say that, but yeah, I mean, it's a good one. Isn't
Yeah.
it? It's a good thing to accomplish.
In terms of prioritizing fitness, what I try to do is make sure I wake up in the morning, do my kind of morning rituals, and make time for going to the gym. I think that's very important because it helps center myself, my physical being, my mental, spiritual being, and then kind of aligns me for the day. From simple terms of just achieving something early in the morning kind of sets you up mentally for something like, okay, I've done something worthwhile, even if it was at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we can attack the day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's true, and I think it's optimal, I think, for everyone to train in the morning or to do some kind of exercise in the morning because it kind of gives you a bit of clarity. It helps you to move through the day with intention because you've started and you've like, okay, I'm going to do something for my body and then I'm going to go and do all the other things that I need to get done during the day. So in terms of where you're at, so obviously you're an actor and you obviously have lots of different things going on, lots of fingers in different pies. So in terms of the just juggling it, how would you say that you make fitness a non-negotiable for your schedule, especially when you've got like different jobs popping in and out through the week?
Um, yeah, it's a good question, to be fair, because it's difficult. It's not easy to try and manage all the physicality of going to the gym as often as I want to. So, football and doing things kind of a lot of cardio work had to go. So I used to play a lot of table tennis when I was younger, play
It's
a lot of
always the cardio
football.
that goes.
Yeah, well, something had to give, and I think as you get older, I read a lot of books that the kind of testosterone kind of loses it, and so therefore the strength in the bones kind of go, and the muscle actual kind of atrophies over time as well. So I was like, okay, we've got to prioritize lifting heavy weights and going to the gym. Um, it's difficult when you've got quite a few different shoots going at different times. So sometimes, like tomorrow's shoot is very unforgiving. It's at 9:30, but you got to get across from one end of London to the other. So you have to get up maybe at 7, 6 o'clock to make sure you're there on time. So that has to go. So you normally, or what I try and do is go in the morning. If I can't go in the morning, I'll try and go in the evening. If I'm too tired, which happens, then what I try and do is prioritize it for the next day when I'm free. But yeah, that's where I try and do
I
it.
think that's the best thing, and there's always going to be things that crop up, but as long as you do something, I think that is it, isn't it? Even if you can't get it done to your schedule, that's what I always try and do. If I can't get it, I'll do something. You you get some steps in, you go to the gym the next day or whatever you can do. And I think that's important, and I think it gives you that commitment to yourself. I think that is the thing with the training. And as we do get older, obviously our metabolism decreases and our bone density decreases. So strength training is optimal, but in terms of cardio, I think it's always the thing, and I'm guilty of it as well, where I let it slide, and I'm like, oh, I really don't want to let it slide because when you get back into it, it's like, oh, but actually, it's something that we should all prioritize as well, isn't it? Okay, so we've seen the physical transformations that actors make for roles, and like what's your sustainable approach to fitness, like beyond just preparing for specific parts, would you say,
So
that you're training?
well, in terms of my well, in terms of my training specifically, because it's a twofold question. There's what actors do, like The Rock Johnson or John Cena's or the Vin Diesels in these fast franchises, and then what mere mortals who don't have their budgets are able who aren't able to do. So I'll just go with myself first. When it comes to a role, normally, if I have to look a little bit leaner, then you've got to diet, you've got to cut out all that sugary stuff. Work harder in terms of the weights that you're actually lifting. You might have to read or speak to the odd professional like yourself to help you with kind of cutting the weight and making sure your physique is at the best, especially if you're taking off your top off in certain scenes. So that's a discipline that you have to do maybe a few days, maybe a week or two out. That's for mere mortals. The other people who have the budget, but they don't necessarily have the time. Obviously, diets is a big thing. What you eat is a big thing in terms of protein, making sure you get a right amount of protein, right amount of rest. So it's everything else outside of just working out. You also get maybe some medical help with them as well, because well, I don't want to mention names, but it's very difficult to get the physique of some of these actors without having some sort of steroid help or some sort of hormone therapy help. I don't mind saying it. I'm not going to name names as to who. I'll leave that to you guys to have a look at people and think, how are they able to do because it's difficult. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day. So you got to look at people's schedule. So if you're on set doing these films, sometimes they can go on for like 4 or 5 months. And then you have maybe a break, and then you're on to the next film where you have to maintain a level of weight training. So people like The Rock, Johnson, John Cena, Sylvester Stallone back in the day, Arnold Schwarzenegger had gyms that go with them on set, so they could get in, do their workout, and that's fine. But as you get older, as we've just talked about, testosterone levels decrease, bone density decrease, muscle density decreases. So you have to do certain things if you want to maintain a certain level that's not necessarily not natural, but it's kind of helping you get there without having to put in as much work. Don't get me wrong, they're still working out, but there's certain people who are getting medical help. I'll just say that, and I'll leave it to you guys to figure out who I'm talking about.
How people feel about those kind of things, because I've never dabbled in that world. I have no clue. So even just sometimes looking at people, I'll think, oh, and someone will be like, they're not natural. And I'm like, I have no idea, But I think in terms of the preparation that people undergo for a role, I really, really love to see it. I really enjoy it. Especially things like Woman King. Yeah. And what did we watch the other day? That boxing film with... Oh.
The boxing one. Oh yeah, that was based on Shields, Clarissa Shields' story. The Fire Inside. The Fire Inside. Brilliant film, by the way. Go watch it.
Prepare her for that role, and I really enjoy it because I think it's nice to have something to work towards. Like, it's always lovely to have a goal, and sometimes if you're into fitness, or if you just enjoy it, or you just have a routine, sometimes it can feel a little bit like, it feels like you're going through the motions. But as soon as that goal comes in, it's like hell for leather. It's like bam, and it's nice to see people doing that. And I think, there's lots of different types of transformations that people can undergo in terms of parts. Would you, if you had to bulk up or get really lean for a role, which one do you think would be easier for you to do?
If you've got the time, then you want to bulk up naturally. Take the time to make sure. If you've got the time, then you want to bulk up naturally. Take the time to make sure your diet's in place. You are able to go to the gym and do the recovery properly. But a lot of the time when people are doing this, they don't have the time. So it's a shortcut to get there, so that when we look at them on TV and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, they look ripped, they need to shortcut the time to be able to look that good. Because before, they might only have one film to focus on a year. They might have 4 or 5 films stretched over a course of a year. And some are different weights. Some of them, they're traveling from different parts of the world. Their fitness has to be a priority, but also it's a case of everything else around it to try and make sure you maintain it is also an important thing. So I'm all for people doing it if they do it healthily, if they do it right, but don't lie to like little kids and say, if you just eat your greens, you can be as tough and as strong as me, when that's not what you're doing. That's where I'm like, but let's be honest here. You had some help, and it's okay, just say it. Yeah, I had some help, but this is the reason why I needed help.
I think there's going to be a handful of people
for certain categories.
Exactly.
But when would you say is like the turning point for you in terms of fitness, where you were like, do you know what, this is not a non-negotiable. This is not a negotiable for me. This is not optional. This has to be done. I have to make sure I get there.
When I started seeing a few of my aunties and uncles, kind of their bodies kind of not deteriorated, but they weren't as fit. And then I've got this fear of having a beer belly. And this is the thing is that we will age. There's a few people trying to say that we're not going to age, but we will age, and it depends on how you age. But you can obviously maintain a level of fitness and health. And when I was seeing that, I was like, okay, I got to maintain a certain level of health so I don't go to the hospital. So I'm not having cardiovascular diseases and I'm not diabetic. And I figured, what's easier to handle? Is it easier to get the pills to make sure that I'm dealing with it once I've got these problems? Or is it easier to prevent these issues or prolong them for as long as possible if I go to the gym on a regular basis? So it becomes a simple case of um, pick your poison. You're going to be working hard either way. And I'd rather work hard here now than work hard by having to pay for these pills, having to tell my doctor tell me that I can't have certain things or can't do certain things. You got to pick whichever
It's like choose your hard, isn't it? Pick your hard.
issue that you wish to resolve right now. It definitely is a pick your hard, but you want to try and I think prevention is better than the cure or whatever the people are telling you to do, which is a lot of these. It's about 50 pills that my mum's going through at this moment in time for different things like cardiovascular diseases and diabetes, water retention. And then once you're on these pills, you can't get off them. So do everything, I would say to everybody, do everything you possibly can do, whether it be vitamins, whether it be eating you a better healthy diet, go into the gym, even doing a sport that you love, maybe tennis. Try and prevent it as much as possible.
Yeah,
and you start to see, obviously, your parents, most people's parents start to get to like 60s, and aunties, cousins, things like that, and you start to see the illnesses that creep in that are hereditary, and you kind of keep looking and you think, right, like, this is not the road that I want to go down. You know, it's not where I want to be. And so it kind of gives you a bit of a shock. Like for me, I've been into fitness for a long time, but now it's like, okay, this is a bit more than that now. Like I've got things that are going to be, you know, inevitable, that are going to happen, or I've got certain ailments that are inevitable, but it's you've got to do the best with the body that you have in order for you to make sure that you can combat those inevitable things when they do come along. So in terms of the conflicting fitness advice, there's a lot of different voices that come through social media, and I think when I speak to people on Instagram and on calls, sales calls for the business, they usually say, I don't know what to believe anymore, especially when they've been on a long journey with trying to shed some weight or trying to live a healthier lifestyle. How do you block out the noise, and where do you see, like, what pulls through to you, and how do you block out the noise from so many different places?
It seems a bit silly to say, but I normally just remember what. It seems a bit silly to say, but I normally just remember what my mum and my nan kind of taught me in terms of the type of foods that they would eat, avocados, the types of sweet potatoes, cassava, food from the West Indies, and having kind of rich in protein, in various different nutritional value. But then obviously over the course of the years, mainstream media didn't know too much about these things, and then all of a sudden they become superfoods. But we've known about these things ever since we grew up. So one is definitely what my background is in terms of trying to have a balanced diet with what you're eating. The other thing is obviously trying to be as curious as you possibly can do, whether that be with reading magazines like Men's Health, other publications are available. Looking at what types of vitamins do what, I think is very important. So instead of just getting a multivitamin, see what vitamin K does for you, see what vitamin D does for you, see what vitamin C does for you. And then where you're deficient, and again, you can find out about where you might be deficient with blood tests, having a regular checkup at the GP, making sure you have vitamins that target those deficiencies help you immensely, because all we're eating is getting converted into these minerals and these vitamins. Some of these things we don't convert, and that's why we need to continually eat different foods to get that in. But what happens is also do the research as to what happens if you don't have these things. So the reason why back in the day pirates would get scurvy is not because they didn't have enough clean water, it's because they didn't have enough fresh fruit, citrus fruit. So if you're not getting enough citrus fruit and you're feeling like, oh, what's going on here? That might be just one example of that. So yeah, having a good curiosity to actually then try and figure out ways in which you can improve. And if you come from a good family background that try to give you a balanced diet, kind of go back to that. What was mum giving me that I always hated? So sometimes I hate broccoli, but when you realize vitamin K is rich in it and you don't get vitamin K from a lot of different things other than green foods, you're like, okay, that's a good reason why I should probably get something like a broccoli. So yeah, curiosity and what family background you got.
What was it called? I can't remember what book was called now. Something, what was it? What the Health or something like that. But anyway, this book basically it dissected all the common Western diseases, and it went through and told you why they are common, who they're common with, the types of people, backgrounds that they're common with, and then also the foods to eat to kind of combat them as well. And it's just funny. It's like all the foods from like, your cultural background that people were eating. People don't have those same diseases back home. Like, you know, deep in Asia, deep in Africa, Caribbean, people aren't having those illnesses. And so there must be a disconnect from when people come from those backgrounds and come over to the Western world, because it's just like, you know, there's something that kind of, there's a bit of a disconnect there, like something happens and it's just going back to the roots. It's like, you know, the foods that were culturally there when we were younger, or, you know, generations before us, those are the foods that we should be eating so much more of, rather than, you know, everything kind of coming full circle and being like, oh, well, you know, bringing things in that are just not going to be optimal for you, for your health. So in terms of your body type and genetic
My body type.
genetics. So everyone's obviously got different body types,
Okay.
and different genetic factors can affect it.
Yeah.
How have you learned to work with your specific body type, like rather than work against it?
You got to remember. If you are 6'2", then you have to embrace the fact that you're quite tall and you've got quite I've got quite a long arm span. If you kind of look out there, so you have to work with your body. It doesn't make sense to work against it. So, for example, if you're doing clean and jerk, or if you're doing bench presses, or if you're doing anything using your arms, you have to naturally assume that most of the time you're doing 1.5 as much with your arms as most people are, because your arms are naturally longer. But you have to still do the work in terms of using your levers and making sure that that's in your case. If you're a shorter person, I would have assumed, and I'm not naming any names.
Petite.
If you're a shorter person, petite is a good question. I think if you're a petite person, then because you've got a lower center of gravity, then you can still distribute that power for those clean and jerks and for those gym movements a lot easier and quicker and faster. But you have to also think to yourself, well, I'm not going to be able to do as much as someone who's 6'2". Maybe you need to ask for help when you go for the cereal. It's just the way that God intends, and it's easier if you go with the body and listen to the body. I think that's the most important thing, is listening to your body. If, for example, your arms are hurting, if your legs are hurting, if you're feeling like something's not quite right, I think it's more important to just listen to your body. If you wanted to do an arm session, for whatever reason the arm is just not working, just say, okay, let's move on to something else and keep that moving.
Yeah. 100%.
But yeah, just try and
I
listen to
think
your body. That's
I always
probably the best
maintain
thing
that
to do.
there's not every single exercise is good for everybody, because when I first started training, when I first started strength training, I could not squat for toffee. Like, I could not squat at all. It was just a really unnatural movement for me. And when I had to really force myself into it, and I ended up actually over time doing a little bit of damage to my knees, where I was kind of forcing the movement. And it's not for everyone. Like, now I can squat and it's fine. And I think since having my coach since the last year, I've been able to squat without any knee pain and start to overload now. So I'm lifting nearly what I was lifting before. But I think listening to your body and just seeing, there's so many different exercises. There's so many different types of working out, and different types of fitness, different types of things to be doing, that it's not one size fits all. And if something really doesn't feel good for you, I think that the best thing to do is to break it down, to figure out why it doesn't feel good for you. So if you can't squat, like, what's stopping you? Is it your hips? Is it your ankles? Is it your, like, there'll be something in there that your body type just doesn't connect with, and there'll be ways to regress the movement and then progress the movement once you're starting to get to feel comfortable and get some movement in there. So in terms of mindset, now I see this a lot with my clients. So I find that people think a lot about not doing the thing rather than just doing it. So people will get will beat themselves up about not doing the thing.
Yeah.
And, rather than just doing it. So I think mindset plays a big, it has a big impact on the way that we move forward with fitness. Like, how would you say that you get through those days where your mindset maybe not the best for the week ahead?
Except that sometimes it's a difficult day. So whether you've not slept well, something bothering your mind may be not focused on whatever task it may be. My advice and what I try to do is think about the outcome. So think about, if I did go to the gym, I will feel better afterwards. If I didn't procrastinate, and it's okay to think to yourself, I'm procrastinating, let's not do whatever job or task this is. But if you just reset your mind and say, okay, that's understandable because you might be nervous, just think about the internal, think about the outcome, and then it helps you position your mind, body in a state where you've already done it. So it makes the job and the task a lot easier because you've already seen yourself do it. So it's just a case of, okay, now I just need to do it. Now, again, don't get me wrong. There's some days where it's like difficult to get out of bed. I think it was 2-3 days ago. I went to the gym like at 6. I didn't actually do anything until probably around 7. I was just messing around on the bike because my mind, for whatever reason, was on learning lines, what type of things I needed to do. So you can be in the space, but I knew I needed to be there and to go through that process of just being like, look, just it'll come. This motivation will come, and once you've done something, it's almost like a snowball effect. You'll move on to the next thing and the next thing, and then by the time it's done, you've done exactly what you thought you weren't going to do because you put yourself in that mindset of once the outcome's over. It's almost like a self-fulfilling
100%.
prophecy.
I think thinking about what it's going to be rather than how you feel in the moment, like essentially how you feel in the moment isn't really anyone's business. It's just getting it done. It's like allow yourself to feel the emotions, but getting up and jumping up to go to the gym, it's quite hard to come by a lot of the time. And sometimes it's just like, actually, what's the reason why I'm doing this? Like, how am I going to feel after the gym, and how am I going to feel next week once I've got all of my sessions in?
It's difficult sometimes to see it that way, but again, if you just say to yourself, okay, it's okay to feel apprehensive or not enthusiastic about going, I think what happens is you kind of beat yourself up for not feeling like you should be in a good state. But if you just not ignore it, but if you allow that and then move on to, but what's going to look like if I do this? What's it going to look like when I do this? Your body's automatically like, yeah, this is easy. This is it, that you've kind of minimized the issues to mean that it's more accessible to do the job.
So in terms of your, like, how do you approach setbacks or plateaus? Like, if something changes and kind of sets you back, how do you approach that?
So sometimes it's nice to eat cakes. Sometimes it's nice to eat chocolate.
It is very nice to eat cakes.
Eat a bit of ice cream, drink a bit of wine. Sometimes it's nice.
Yeah, and I think what I found with my clients is I've been doing planned diet breaks because it's all well and good. When people have a long journey, they might be working on like a big portion of fat loss, just a big goal. Usually it's weight loss. It's not necessarily strength that we're working with strength, but mainly it's the big goal is the fat loss. And sometimes people think they can push and push and push, and sometimes the body just says, no, enough now. Do you know what I mean? So it needs rest. And I think sometimes planned diet breaks make a massive difference, because it's like, okay, what we're going to do this month is we're going to take your calories up a little bit, and we're just going to give you a bit of a rest in terms of the deficit. Let's come out of the deficit, let's reset, let's refocus, and then we can go back into it at a later date, and then we can start the fat loss again. Because sometimes it's just like, mentally, it's not going to be that, like what tends to happen is that you need to be in a deficit to lose weight.
Yeah.
And what happens is people start to come out of that deficit. So you can push it for so long, naturally things start to creep in, like a bit here, from meal to meal. And then you're not sustaining the deficit. So it's just this kind of perpetual diet that you're on, but you're not really doing. And so I find that having a diet break makes a massive difference, because then you can actively come out of the deficit and then actually go back into the deficit a few weeks later and actually have a clear mind and start making that progress again. And it's just having a bit of space, because mentally, physically you could do a deficit for a long time, but mentally there's the disconnect is there, and you just need a bit of a break.
Yeah. I was just thinking while you were saying that, is that most people who rock climb or mountain climb or go to these like Everest or Mount Kilimanjaro, they understand it, because you're not setting off from day one to get to the top. You get to you get to base camp first, and then from base camp you plot your route, stopping in between until you get to that top. And even when you get on the way down, it's not like, okay, we're gonna go all the way down on one day. It's like, okay, we're gonna stage it down. So just look at it that way. It's like, okay, we rest here until we make that next assault onto the next bit, until we reach the top.
Yeah, that's it.
If you're looking to lose like 20 to 30 kilos, that's it's a large chunk of weight. And some people, they do just power through it, and they can, but for most people they're just going to need to take a little bit of a, we lose the first 5, then we talk about that, review it, and then we lose the next 5, and then we can go on like that. We can take little breaks in between. Exactly. Which makes a massive difference, makes it more manageable and more enjoyable as well. So do you want to lose 10 to 20 kg this year for good? Don't do any of those fad diets. Dukan, Cambridge, keto. You need to learn how to eat the things you enjoy to get and stay in shape. This might include eating out, it might include chocolate, it might include alcohol. Stop over-restricting and get the weight gone once and for all. If you want sustainable results this year, drop me a follow to learn more about what I do. Well, so in terms of many of our viewers, they struggle with emotional eating. So have you ever faced a similar challenge? And
Yes.
if so, okay, straight away. And if so, how do you overcome it? Like, when have you faced this challenge? When have you faced emotional eating?
I'm still facing it. I love a bit of chocolate with my coffee in the morning at the gym. Sometimes even a chocolate pan chocolate, or an apple Danish with my coffee, as most people might like. And that's difficult, because sometimes there's things on my mind and I don't normally eat a lot of food, but sometimes it's there and you think, oh, you can get this as an offer with the coffee. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. What's good is telling people about it, and then other people are like, you not do something a bit more healthier for it? And then it questions why you doing it. Because there's always, when it comes to emotional eating, for me and for family and friends who do it, it's not the process of eating that's the problem. Because if they eat a lot of fruit or veg or healthier stuff, then I don't think it's too much of an issue. The fact that you go for the sweet treats, you go for the cakes, you go for things that are not necessarily good for you, accumulating over a period of time, I think there's something deeper going on. And I think for me, emotionally, what's going on when I start eating a lot of these, shall we say, non-breakfast related snacks at breakfast time, is that I'm thinking to myself, oh, it'll be nice to have something sweet in the moment, or it'll be nice to have this because it's there. And you think to yourself, yeah, I deserve it. And you start making up excuses as to the reasons why you have these things. Whereas I kind of have to switch and be like, no, let's not have this now. Let's get some fruit. So I might get some dried dates or strawberries or mango. Have that, and that'll cessate the urge to have something sugary, but it's also more healthy as well. And then over time, you'll think to yourself, I'll just get the fruit instead. So you're kind of reprogramming your mind to not say to yourself, oh yeah, I deserve this sweet treat, rather than, oh, this is just part of having tea or coffee or water at the gym, because this is much more healthier for me. It's just reprogramming your emotions to accept, yes, you might have 1 or 2 days where you're eating the cake or you're eating that salty stuff, but it's then a case of, okay, that's just for that moment, having that emotion. How can I reset it for maybe I want it later on? Maybe I should earn it. Just reset it towards something a bit more productive is probably the best way of.
Yeah. And I think emotional eating there's so many layers to it, in the sense that I find that it's either you experience an emotion, like not you personally, but people experience an emotion, and that emotion means some sort of food. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to food for this, whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, anxiety, depression. They kind of go to food because it gives them that quick satisfaction, and it gives you that quick good feeling, and and then the feeling actually is still there. Or in terms of emotional eating, sometimes it is habit. It's like, okay, my day is set up like this, so I'm going to go and grab something, and you're grabbing the thing that is just not optimal. It's going to give you a quick sugar release and make you feel good in the moment, but actually it's going to make you come crashing down. And then also, I think sometimes in terms of emotional eating, sometimes people have never really had a balance. Like, I find when I speak to people, they haven't really had a balance of food at home sometimes. So maybe not an organised breakfast or an organised lunchtime or organised dinner time. And so the eating has just been, I'll just grab what I can. And in grabbing what they can, they grab the things that they want in that moment, rather than what's actually good for them overall for the whole day. So there's various different types of emotional eating. And I think it's... We have it in different ways. Sometimes it can be positive emotional eating, where there's certain traditions with family and things like that, like Christmas time or Sundays at your nan's or something like that. Or it can be things that you associate like as treats, like, oh, it's Friday, we're gonna have a treat, the family has a treat, it's takeaway, it's fish and chips night or whatever it is. That's what it was in my family. But yeah, I think there's different layers to emotional eating, and we all have it. But I think what I aim for my clients is to channel it into a different way, and for them to make different decisions when these things come up. So there's a few people where they experience an emotion, they go straight to food because it gives them that satisfaction. It's something that they can control as well. Whereas if we experience an emotion and we do something different, maybe we go for a walk, or if we've got time, we go and do a workout, or we do some meditation or some breath work, or we just, something that isn't food, that it doesn't mean that food is this kind of crutch that we can hold on to. And that's what I'm trying to build into more of that to my program, so that we can try and shift that emotional attachment to food in that way, because there are times when we can enjoy the emotional attachment to food, and we can really utilize it in a good way. And everyone has it. For me, if I'm anxious, I don't eat. That's my thing. Like, if I'm anxious or sad, and I don't eat. And then if I'm happy, I will eat. And then I like wine. Like, that's my thing. So sometimes through the year, I have to say to myself, do you know what? It's a few months of no wine, because it can get to the point where habits start to kind of overplay, and they start to kind of creep up on us. And I think the more that I can help people exercise not just discipline but more control, then the better things will be. And then it means that they can carry it on into other further beyond the coaching and into other areas of their.
I mean, I think it's important that you say that. Look, even me, I love my wine, but I've even seen where you're focusing on a goal and you'd be like, there's no wine. We're not doing any wine. We're not doing any alcohol. We're just going to focus on this because there's a goal in mind. And I think that's important for people to be like, you can still enjoy certain things, but have the value in abstinence, in fasting, in making sure that you are taking care of yourself, because then you could always go back into it, and it creates discipline. So you're able to be like, I need to focus on one task or focus on this particular thing, because there's nothing bigger or more important than your own health, in my opinion, for yourself. Yes, you might have kids, you might have family, but if you're not able to look after yourself properly, you can't look after others. So I think that's an important thing to highlight.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think is the most surprising thing that you've learned about fitness?
Okay.
That you think most people don't realize?
It becomes addictive, probably. So, I think I find it difficult and I get irritable if I go for a few days without doing some sort of physical exercise. I think um, it becomes a snowball effect, and it's a good snowball effect to an extent where you can focus, if you do it properly, on maintaining your own well-being. So you can do everything you possibly can do, and it'll snowball into how am I recovering? You'll start dressing differently. You'll start eating differently. You'll start looking at things differently. You'll start making much more conscious choices about how whatever I'm doing, eating, listening to, watching, do, whatever, will benefit me in the long run because I'm going to the gym. And that kind of addictive self improvement will happen to you if you go to the gym or you do a sport that you really love, that automatically you'll start feeling it. I used to play football a lot growing up. So I used to go to an academy in Leeds, and automatically I'm not staying out late. Automatically, I'm not spending too much time chasing the girls, even though I did find them. But I'm not drinking as much. I'm not partying as much. I'm thinking about weight training. I'm doing other sports to try and contribute. Everything, and I was quite young when I was doing this. So everything, just doing that one sport or just thinking about how to be the best football player you can be. So many other things change in terms of diet and vitamins and various different things that you're doing will contribute if you just take on this fitness addiction.
Yeah, the fitness addiction is interesting actually because I think, like all things, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good when you reach a new goal in terms of like you can lift heavier or you can run faster, and I think that is great. I think what what it needs to be is people. I think sometimes people can tend to start punishing themselves with it, and it's not there for that, you know. No. So it's being careful that you're not punishing yourself with it, but it's, you know, you're using it as a nice addiction. I think so. There's been a few times actually where you've come to mine and been like, oh, have you been out today? Have you been to the gym? And I've just been there like on my laptop, like talking to clients and doing. It's like, and you can tell from my temperament that I just haven't. Yeah, I haven't been out. I have not been to the gym. And you're like, okay, you need to go to the gym. And I'm like, oh God, yeah, I just need to go. And that's, you know, that's a nice thing. 'Cause it's like, okay, I can release here. But I think sometimes that there is that kind of punishing of yourself, like, oh, I have to go and hit it extra hard at the gym today because I went out last night or something like that. And I think that sometimes that can be unhealthy, you know. If you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of fitness advice, what would you say?
Oh wow, younger self. I was quite fit growing up though, so I knew quite a bit of different stuff. Um, I would probably say have in enjoy recovery more. And the reason why I say enjoy recovery more is because when you're young, I find that you can get away with not stretching off or warming down or cooling down, whatever terminology you want to use it. And you're fine because your body is quite a lot more supple. It's easier to not get the injuries that you can get as you get older. Um, but if you actually look after yourself a lot more, if you stretch a lot more before and after gym sessions, if you get into the steam room, if you do a lot of massages, if you look after your recovery more, I think as you get older, you'll appreciate, this is for my younger self, but for anyone listening, I think you'll appreciate as you age, your body needs more requirements in different areas. Obviously, growing up, playing football at the academy level, we were told not to use free weights because your body's still growing and therefore you don't want to overload your body while it's still growing and developing and getting stronger, because what will happen is you create more damage. Muscles might not grow in the right areas that you want because you're overloading it before it has time to develop. So if you focus on the recovery side of things, focus on that, I think over time, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you'll listen to your body more and be more in tune with your body because you're taking care of it as well as making sure it's at peak tip-top condition. And therefore your body, hopefully, touch wood, will look after you as you age. So that would probably be my advice to my teenage self. But who knows if he would have listened? Eh? Who knows?
You never know, do you? But I think that's really good. I think sometimes, I think from my perspective, what would I have said to myself? I think I would have probably pushed myself a little bit more. I don't think I knew enough about fitness. I think I would have tried a lot more younger. But you know, there's nothing to stop you from trying now, right? Exactly. There's nothing to stop you from trying. Okay, so if you had to get ready for a red carpet,
Yes.
what would be? Well, yeah, we're on the red carpet. What would you? What would be your 30-second pump up before?
Press ups, probably press ups and pull ups would probably be the thing. Press ups because I won't be in the suit, but I'll probably do press ups or pull ups. The reason why is because with the press up, it kind of works a lot of the upper body, which is, I mean, people aren't looking at your legs unless you're wearing a skirt really on the red carpet, and I don't think I'll be doing that anytime soon. And then the pull ups helps pump up the bicep. And to be fair to you, the bicep is kind of this fancy one. Obviously, the bicep is just literally that little bit here, and then the tricep is a larger muscle. So if I could find a dip, a way to do dips, I'd probably do dips as well as pull-ups.
It depends on what you're wearing.
I think what would you do? What would you wear with your red dress?
What would I do? I think I would want to say press ups, but because obviously I'm thinking dressing room. I'm thinking dressing room.
Some space.
Yeah, I'm thinking dressing room. So I'm thinking the arms. You can get like a good amount of, a good of pump. You can get your triceps. For women always want to, like, triceps are always an area to target, but definitely push-ups. If I can get something, if I could have some bands or something, I would be doing something. If probably I'll be wearing a backless dress because I love a backless dress. So something for my back, some kind of row, or even some back extensions. So when you're lying on the floor, obviously the dress won't be on at this point, but you're lying on the floor and then you can come up like that. Definitely some back extensions would be in there. But at the same time, if I was wearing something that was figure hugging, or trousers, I can't imagine myself wearing trousers on the red carpet, but I'd probably do some kind of glute bridges or something just to get or some hip thrusts off the couch. I just keep thinking of this dressing room that I'm going to be in.
I was about to say, the Met Gala was a few days ago, and so maybe Rihanna with her baby bump was out here doing bare back extensions just to try and get into it.
I can't imagine Rihanna doing any workout.
Nah, she's probably doing some sort of workout.
Do you think she trains?
I think she's doing some sort of workout because she's always... I think she's doing some workout. I don't think she's out here just... This is another thing. This is for later on. Cosmetic surgery, who's done what and who's got what, and because you're good at this.
Oh yeah, I am good at this. It's just fun. I'm just always really obsessed with cosmetic surgery and like all the injectables and everything. And I can always tell, like, we watched A Simple Favor the other day, didn't we?
Yeah, and we talked about Anna Kendrick and what she might have had.
And how her face was like... It was obviously it's years later, but her face was... She had some stuff
Well,
done.
we think lip fillers, a little bit lip fillers at the top. And again...
Botox.
Fine if you want to do it, by the way. But obviously it's interesting when someone does it and there's, like, cheek fillers. I think she had a bit... Chin filler. Chin filler. Yeah, I know, it's kind of mad. It's kind of mean.
It kind of shapes the face, doesn't it? It shapes the face, the chin.
Yeah, that's for a podcast for some other time.
That is for something else. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
No. Before we wrap up, because we got a bit of time. No, it's not a game. But well, I'll ask you. I was gonna ask you, obviously from the films and the actors that you've seen, is there any transformations that you were like really surprised by? Maybe top 5 transformations in a film.
Oh, that's a really interesting one, actually. Transformations of films. I think, do you know who I think has transformed a hell of a lot? Yeah. Renee Zellweger. She has transformed a lot. So obviously she put weight on for Bridget Jones. And she was always quite slim and petite leading up to that point. So she did Chicago. I'm not sure. Chicago was after. So Chicago was after Bridget Jones, or was it before? No, it was after. Was it after? I think it was after, yeah.
But she's done... So was it Bridget Jones first and then Chicago? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I don't know.
Because this is the thing. I think she won it for... she won an Oscar for this Cold Mountain with Nicole Kidman and Jude Law. And then she had a period where she was with Jerry Maguire, is when I first saw her, with Tom Cruise. Then she did something with Cold Mountain with Nicole Kidman and Jude Law. And then I'm not sure, because this is the thing, is whether or not she got the Bridget Jones Diary first, and then Chicago with Renée Zellweger. But I think she just put in a shift in that film. And what do you think about the yo-yo diets? You know, like the Christian Bales that are like really thin and then they bulk up. Obviously, between films, and they've got the money to stuff their face.
I was just googling this, so I don't know what she. Well, I'm guessing. So Bridget Jones was 2001.
Okay.
Chicago was 2002. So she must have put on the weight and then lost it all.
She got fitter probably because it wasn't. But it depends on which one was filmed first. So they obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good shout because that's a lot of because she's dancing, she's singing, and she's not actually. I don't think she's musically trained. I know Kathleen Zeta-Jones is, but she wasn't. So that's a good shout. We talked about Viola because obviously you watched G20.
Yeah.
She's looking wham.
She is looking wham, but she's been looking wham since Woman. She's been looking wham since How to Get Away with Murder. To be fair, she's been looking good. But then I think Woman King
did it.
that Woman King. When I saw the behind the scenes and the backstage, but offset stuff that they were doing rehearsals, I was like, that is my dream. That was my dream film. Like to be like, because they had the spears and then they were going through it and they were like, like just that rehearsal just gave me like goosebumps just looking at it. But I think that the ladies in that just all did an amazing job. I'm surprised that they were Lashana Lynch. I can't remember who else. What the other girl in it, the small girl.
Oh, she's South African girl. The girl who was the daughter. Something she was in the Underground Railroad, which is on Amazon Prime. Brilliant. And she's South African, but her accent in the American, spot on. You wouldn't know. She's good. She's a terrific actress.
I think Viola Davis, Renée Zellweger. I'm trying to think. It was Lashana Lynch actually in Woman King.
You think so?
Yeah, like she really.
Fast Girls and she was fit in that as well.
Yeah, but I think it's not necessarily about just be like she looks like she's ready. She always looks like she's ready to go. And I think she's had quite a diverse career as well because she was Miss Honey and thing in Matilda.
Yes, she was.
And then so she's done well. But I think it's nice seeing people put in that work. I'm trying to think who else is like female transformations in terms of film.
I was watching a trailer for The Old Guard 2. What do you think of Charlize Theron? Because she's done a few action films with Atomic Blonde. She did Old Guard, and she's looking a bit more. I mean, she can transform because she did Monster and she's done other things like so. That's another one where I was like, you're doing your own stunts. She's not like she's doing a lot of her own stunts. So I was like, okay, fair play.
Yeah, and there was another film with Jodie Foster and this other lady. I can't remember the other lady, but she was.
Oh
it was
you did tell me about that. What it was? Was it?
That film actually
it was based on a true story.
So
Can't remember.
bad with the names.
My
but she
God
basically
or
swam
Rearguard
like
or
from
something like
one side of the US
Yeah.
to the other. I can't remember, but she must have been putting on a lot.
She
of work
actually
for that.
was she actually doing a lot of takes of like swimming, or was it like quick?
I feel like she must have been. I don't know. Like, why would you choose her over someone that can swim? Like could swim properly. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
So I don't know. I've not seen the film, so maybe they're doing like wide angles and then close in on the pool.
because
something
there
like
was
that.
so. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it would be easy to just film it, but I feel like you would get someone that would want to put themselves through their paces so that the film, because I felt really emotionally attached to it, and I'm
Okay.
not a good swimmer.
Not yet. Not yet. So we got Jodie, Renee, Lashana Lynch, Viola Davis. Who else? Is the last one. Top 5.
Trying to think. Think of the films that I've seen most recently where there's been some kind of. Ryan. What's her surname? The one that was in The Fire Inside.
Oh, Ryan Destiny. Yeah,
Ryan Destiny.
She was really good. She got that. I think she got her down in terms of her mannerisms when you could imagine her being that young. But her boxing stance, when you're doing boxing films, and that's another thing as well, you have to be fit. You have to look fit because if you got your shirt off most of the time, obviously women have got the bra, but you have to be fit to do the moves. You can't really fake those types of films because we can see the technique, and there's boxers out there looking at it thinking, bro, you don't throw a punch like that. You're not defending yourself like that. It's kind of mad. So yeah, Ryan Destiny, good shout. Good shout.
Okay. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much, Morgan, for coming on to the Everything You podcast. It's been so good, and we're going to get so many more exciting guests on. We are going to have some of my current clients and ex-clients, comedians, coming on to give an insight into how they prioritize their fitness and how they make it work with their busy careers as working mums, and also going from strength to strength and gaining so much more publicity within their careers as well. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you want to lose 10 to 20 kg this year for good? Don't do any of those fad diets. Dukan, Cambridge, keto. You need to learn how to eat the things you enjoy to get and stay in shape. This might include eating out, it might include chocolate, it might include alcohol. Stop over-restricting and get the weight gone once and for all. If you want sustainable results this year, drop me a follow to learn more about what I do.